A very good evening and welcome to this edition of the Fourth Estate. Charles Mwangu Shampagi. And tonight we continue the debate about the raging controversy of amendment of the Constitution, removing Article 102B on age caps, the lower age cap at 35 and the higher age cap at 75. Much of the discussion we're hearing is that actually the bigger problem is on the upper age cap, not the lower age cap. But the bigger question for us to be asking as Ugandans is, beyond the fracas we saw in Parliament, what next? I understand that the Majezi motion rather, was gazetted, I think on Friday, and might be coming for discussion for first presentation in Parliament as early as next week. So as early as Tuesday, between Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, we might be seeing the Majezi motion having its first reading in Parliament, after which members of Parliament will be helping us to understand the procedure. It will be sent to a committee, a parliamentary committee on legal and parliamentary affairs, for framing and threshing out, and then after that we will be returned to Parliament, and then we'll see how far it goes. To discuss those and other issues on the show tonight, we have, let me start with Member of Parliament for Porto Municipality, Alex Ruhunda. Alex, very nice to have you on the show.
I'm glad to be here this night.
Seated next to Alex Ruhunda, Alex is a member of the National Resistance Movement. He's an MP on the National Resistance Movement ticket. He's seated next to Simeo Nsubuga. Many people know Simeo Nsubuga during his time at the Uganda Police Force, but he's since moved on. He's Member of Parliament for Kasanda South in Mubende District. You're most welcome, Simeo.
Thanks, Alex. Sorry, thanks, Charles.
Okay.
Good evening, viewers, and welcome to the program.
We have, of course, Honor Peter Ekomoloit. He's a regular on the show. He's part of the panel of the show. So, Honor, always a pleasure to be with you on the show here.
Good evening, Charles, and nice to be with an eminent panel today.
And last but not least, we have Teddy Seziche. Teddy Seziche is a journalist and publisher of the Uganda Confidential. Teddy, very nice to have you.
Good evening. Thank you, Charles. Good evening, viewers.
I want to start with you, Alex Ruhunda. Number one is you've stood out during the fracas on Tuesday, on Wednesday.
Yes.
Which a lot of talk shows have already discussed, so we don't need to belabor the details now. You stood up and tried to raise an issue with the Speaker, and you were not listened to. The bigger question Ugandans are asking, what actually is at stake with this amendment?
Yeah, I think we have a very big challenge as a country, because it is extremely difficult when you have had a very strong leader, President Yoweri Museveni, who has, as a revolutionist who came in power and has really moved the country. To some people, it is difficult to imagine that such a great man can retire and see a new leadership. There are those who cannot imagine that. But for the country, like we have seen, I have, first of all, I picked a lot of interest in going back to the 1995 Constitution. I looked at the spirit in which the 1995 Constitution was framed. It was really after soul-searching, looking at our history right from the pre-colonial era, looking at the colonial rule where, you know, we were denied the chance as Africans, as Ugandans, to govern ourselves, getting back to where we got a chance to have independence, and then from there, the President Milton Obote, because of the challenges with the Mutesa, who by that time Uganda was a predominant society at that time, so had to maneuver in order to find his way. So that's how the 1967 crisis, the Pigeonhole Constitution, was formed. Now, all those weaknesses combined together, including the coming up of Idi Amin, who from the ideological wing, he really had the rightful thinking when it comes to empowering of the black people to manage themselves. And especially Ugandans getting to business and commerce. Trade and commerce is a very powerful tool for every society. But he lacked the sophistication that is required for the modern engagements. Now, after that, we see the new era, the struggles. Now, all those combines with the long 5-year guerrilla warfare, which really affected the country, Uganda, as a whole, because economically we could not do much. Now we get to a new era of President Yoweri Museveni. Of course, many of us here, I think apart from Ted says the chair, whom I see more gray hair than us, I think quite a number of us by that time were young people. I mean, you could have been born in during the era, but we have seen what President Museveni has done. Now, putting all that aside, it is extremely important that Ugandans, from the realistic angle, begin thinking of the era beyond President Museveni. So now, the constitutional framers that time, I think I was asking myself, did they even predict? Because by that time, the president had said he was even not interested in continuing. He was just preparing the country for civilian leadership. Now, while they were framing the 1995 constitution, I was wondering how come they put some, clear benchmarks that would control
the whole of power,
the presidency. And when they introduced term limits, why did they do that by that time? So I have been just going back into history. Now, when they introduced age limit, what did they mean by putting in the age limit? So to me, I thought that by that time, the wisdom, my conviction is God works through people. And I think they were foresighted because one of the major important ingredients in governing societies is ensuring that there would be change.
Peaceful change.
Peaceful change.
Yeah,
and that is the most disturbing issue, very critical at this point.
Just hold it there for a moment, because I have a lot of questions for you. I'll come back to you, but I want to run this question across the table. Smell, what is at stake?
Yeah, thanks a lot for your question. What is at stake? We are having a process of amending the Constitution, where a private member has come up with a private member's bill, which is provided for within the Constitution. My brother here has explained the history of this country, where we have come from and where we have reached now. One thing which he has not pointed out, that unlike those regimes, like during Obote's regime or Amini's regime, the different with those regimes and NRM regime today, that we have free and fair elections.
Do we?
Every after 5 years, within the Constitution.
Do we?
So we can change leaders through the elections.
So what is at stake? That's my question.
No, I've explained to you that it is provided for.
That's a process.
Yeah, and
yes.
we are going to amend it.
Okay.
So it is a normal situation. Yeah, because apart from some few people, especially those in opposition and few from NRM party, like my brother here, and what he's doing is against the party rules and regulations, because the Magezi motion was endorsed by the NRM party caucus. So any party member is supposed to abide by the party rules and regulations. So this is the party position now in Parliament.
We'll come back to discuss the details later. Let me jump to Honor. Honor, in your view, what is at stake beyond what we have seen so far? What is at stake?
I don't think it's a complicated issue. What's at stake is, should President Museveni stay in power beyond 2021? That's the simple question. And that's where everything rotates. Because the lower limit is ridiculous. Nobody expects anybody less than 35 to become president in this country for the foreseeable long future. So everyone knows that 2021 President Museveni will be caught up by the current age limit, and there is all evidence that either himself or at least his supporters need him to continue beyond that point. So all this fighting is about those who want him to continue and those who don't want him to continue. That's what is at stake.
Mr. Chair, what's at stake? Same question.
Well, what is at stake? You see, what is at stake actually is not being discussed. That's the tragedy of this thing. In Homer's episode, The Murder at Midnight, the most important question at that time in that episode was why the dog, which was fierce, did not bark. Meaning maybe an insider had committed a murder. So in this particular case, what is at stake is not being discussed. What is at stake? What is at stake is that Mr. Museveni, the president of Uganda, is following an ideology that people don't understand, and they have not even discussed it. And once we can understand that ideology, which is very brief, I can tell you about it. In the in the Bible, in the book of Isaiah, chapter 38 and 39, he talks about a king called Hezekiah. Hezekiah reached a stage when God got angry and he wanted him dead. So he sent a prophet, Isaiah, to go and tell him, your time is up. So Hezekiah prayed to God for an extension of term limit.
There were term limits in the Bible.
No, just an extension of time limit and even more years.
Yes.
So God gave him 15 years, 3 term limits. Said, you are going to live for 15 years. This is in Isaiah's book. Then the angel told the angel told the Hezekiah that, you know, the conditions for this extension. Hezekiah said, what's the condition? The angel told him, after 15 years, your kingdom is going to be ruined. Your children will be taken into slavery. So Hezekiah asked the prophet, said, won't there be peace during my time? Hezekiah said, yes. The angel said, yes, there will be peace during your time. And this is the ideology Mr. Museveni is following. During his time, there's going to be this peace. But when he goes, he doesn't care what will happen, whether the children, whether his family, whether his wife are taken into slavery. That's the tragedy. And because we don't understand this ideology, we have this, we are knocking each other. The FDC, the NRM, and even the family of Museveni thinks they are safe, they are home and dry, when they are not. So once we can understand this ideology, and when you get this, when you understand this ideology, then you can appreciate what he's doing. He can say this, tomorrow he changes. Because for him, it is up to the time he dies. That's when he praised Gaddafi, that he was a hero because he died in a foxhole. You understand?
He died in the struggle.
Yeah, because he died. For him, it is better to live until he dies. So everything is about himself. That's why he's doing all these things. And unfortunately, the opposition and the NRM people are not seeing that. In fact, it would be very important to reach the Janets, to reach Saleh, to reach Muhoz and tell them, look, even your interests are not taken care of. And because of that, because we have not understood the principle, we are concerning ourselves with the other things. This man is for himself. He doesn't care what is going on. As long as he's there and he dies in power, that's what he wants.
President Museveni has said the people who are talking about age limit are idlers. I think that's the word he used. No, he said those promoting it, he said the likes of Mafabi had been provoked. And when you're provoked, you respond. So he said those talking were were engaged because they had been provoked. He said those others, he said, for me, I'm concentrating on other things. I'm not worried about this.
But the
thing.
thing
Yes.
he's concentrating on is his own his life, his president's life, the project, to die in power. That's all.
Okay.
But,
Let-
but,
let's-
Judge, but I want to,
want-
says, so why do you imagine that if President Museveni dies in power, it will not amount to a peaceful transfer of power? It will actually be the most peaceful
No,
transfer.
no, you
because
see-
he will not even be there to challenge the decision.
no,
So what
yes.
is more peaceful?
You see, let us
And the
get-
constitution is very clear. In case the president dies, the vice president is there to take over. And
Miss-
within
but-
90 days, we shall have
Mr.
It
Songa,
has-
let me ask.
by-election.
Let me ask. I hear people referencing to the Constitution,
Yes.
but do you think this book you're holding today, called the Constitution, remains a reliable document for arbitration of leadership political disputes in this country? Because in 2005, you'd safely say the Constitution is there. It says once you finish your 2 terms, you get out of power. No problem. 2017, you would be saying now the Constitution is clear. Once you hit 75 years, you are not qualified. So the Constitution works. If you reference the Constitution in circumstances like this, can the Constitution be relied upon? Because some people have been
Yes,
arguing.
Charles.
Just a moment. Some people have been arguing, preparing this discussion. We're saying maybe what is at stake is the Constitution itself, constitutional governance, is at stake. Some people have argued, like Shea would argue, what is at stake is the economy, right now and beyond Museveni. Others would argue and say, what is at stake is the politics, generally. What is at stake is what happens to Museveni and his family. So would you say that a constitution out of which you're changing as and when you think convenient can be relied upon as a document that guarantees what happens after President Museveni?
Yeah, Charles, the constitution is a reliable document.
How?
Because the framers of this constitution in 1995, they are wise enough that they within this constitution, they enacted articles 295, 260, 261, 263. In other words, it provides for amendment of the constitution.
Yes.
How to touch it and where to touch it.
So what-
So for them, they knew that at an appropriate time, this document will be amended. So if the need arises, we have to follow the procedure on how to amend the constitution.
before-
Just a minute. What is going to happen is not new. It has happened before.
Yes.
So there's no need for...
And you think it has happened at an appropriate time? This constitution will be
They
22
never
years.
indicated the
The-
time that
the-
when you
this
are going to
constitution-
amend,
this
you
constitution
are
will
amending
be
such and such a time.
Next Sunday, when we sit in this studio to discuss to have another fourth estate,
Yes, sir.
this constitution will be marking 22 years.
Yes.
And you think within 22 years is an appropriate time for the amendments that this constitution has had already,
Charles,
and the ones you're proposing?
constitution world over amended
Yes.
several times.
But not it punched like this one. This constitution actually,
No,
Charles,
Teddy, just a minute. Punching it in which way?
I will
Because
tell you the
the
way.
question I want, maybe you are able to answer this. Is amending this constitution, is it a constitutional issue?
It is, yes.
Yeah, if it is, then we are following the procedure.
Yes.
Because
Beyond.
it is laid down.
I
Unless you are telling me that what you are doing is contrary to the law. But whatever we are
Honorable
doing
Rwanda.
is written here in
Hon-
black
Honorable-
and white. In
Honorable
black and
Rwanda,
white.
let me come back quickly to you. He raises a valid argument. The Constitution provides for its own amendment. What is wrong with amendment of the Constitution? It goes back to the question
Well-
we're asking,
well,
what is at stake?
You see, I think it is extremely important to look at the Constitution holistically, not just piecemeal, because
Yes.
you have got a few provisions where it provides for amendment. But you must get to know why is it that certain, clauses, articles within the Constitution were fixed at that particular moment. And that's why I have been saying that it is extremely important for us to reflect. First of all, it is important that we as Ugandans, because since Uganda was created, we have never seen a peaceful transition. And we are living within an East African, context where we see our neighbors. Look at Kenya. We have a very classic example. Even when Kano, you would never even imagine that a party like Kano would collapse. But because a party like Kano decided to only revolve on the leader, the moment issues with that leader came up, Kano
Disintegrated.
collapsed. It disintegrated. But look at our very good role model in Tanzania, where we have Chama Cha Mapinduzi. You know, like at this point in time, you know, people can say, you know, Ruhunda, I have heard my colleague saying that I must, you know, toe the party line. But please, I have been in the party. I have seen actually one of the great players in the party, Mama Mbabazi. I could never believe a staunch NRM like Mama Mbabazi. But as we speak now today, I cannot even know where Mama Mbabazi is.
He is.
And yet this is a gentleman who played a very cardinal role. Now, the big crisis which I see, because for me, I do not like, you know, I have been affiliated to so many entities worldwide. And if I join, I must also love what I'm joining. But also, I should be able to advise to see that there is continuity. Now, the ideology of NRM, the thinking of President Museveni, the vision of NRM cannot stop with President Museveni. And I think this is where...
Let me just interject quickly. For clarity for our viewers, is there an NRM party position? Has the age limit question of the Majezi bill been discussed in any organ of the National Resistance Movement? Smell.
Yeah, right now, what has happened within the party caucus, NRM parliamentary caucus.
Could you answer my question? Has the Majezi bill been endorsed or been discussed by any organ of the National Resistance Movement?
Not yet.
Not yet.
But as members of parliament.
Because the party caucus is not a recognized organ of
it. Is not. Yeah. But within the just a minute.
Yes.
He asked me the question.
Okay.
Within parliament, as members of NRM, because we are under multi-party politics, and you have to appreciate that we have a caucus, like FDC has a caucus, UPC, DP. So this matter has been discussed within NRM parliamentary caucus, and the caucus has come up with a position that you as caucus members, please go ahead and endorse and support Majezi motion on the floor of parliament. Because we are also guided, just a minute, we have what we call procedures for NRM caucus. So we are guided. We are guided in such a way that if an honorable member comes up with a private member's bill, let him appear before a caucus. Let him explain everything, and you as caucus members, ask him whatever questions you have. At the end of it, come up with a position. Which the
Has
chief...
Majezi been asked those questions?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
We spent
I'm afraid we need to take a break.
As members of the caucus...
Gentlemen, could you hold it?
Majezi position,
could you hold it for a moment?
Now is our own.
Could you hold it for a moment? I need to take a quick commercial break. As we take the break, there's one question that I need the two members of parliament, because both of you belong to the NRM party,
yes,
to answer once we come out of the break. Aren't you, as a party, reneging on your responsibility of holding the government that you formed to account? Because the government was supposed to present comprehensive electoral law reform laws. You have a deadline of up to May 2018,
yes,
as ordered by the Supreme Court. By running, I have seen, I think there are about 8 or 9 now, applications for private members' bills in the office of the Speaker. Isn't this a discussion that you should be asking your party, I mean the people you have put to run government as a party, to say, why aren't you doing what we need you to do instead of running everybody running behind a private member's bill? Let's come back to this discussion after a short commercial break. Welcome back to this edition of the Fourth Estate. I see the Honorable Margaret Mahanga is sending a message here. Says, Honorable, I think Nsubuga has forgotten that NRM caucus has debated and endorsed the motion, and Cabinet 2 weeks ago gave a go-ahead to the caucus and pledged their support to a private member to seek leave of Parliament to draft his bill. That's Margaret Mahanga. I see another message here. Someone says, Businge Michael Kedi from East Division Fort Portal Municipality says, I believe in DP democracy-wise, but I support our MP's lining of issues. Please let Museveni forgive us, the youth, and keep to the words, certainly not in power beyond 2021. That's what he said. Someone else called Christopher, also in Fort Portal, says, the NRM MPs, apart from our MP Alex, they should know that constitution amendment is beyond party level. It's a real national issue. Christopher from Fort Portal. Let me take a message here from, Ndeji Asimo says, Mr. Cheye, why do you think Article 102B was not entrenched? 2, who says if Museveni stands again in 2021, he cannot be defeated? Lastly, why fear Museveni like Ebola? The reason we NRM Museveni admirers are dying to return Museveni is because we have realized that you fear him so much. That's Ndeji Asimo. Andrew Karamaji is watching us and says the Constitution has a basic structure of principles and values which shouldn't be damaged in the course of amendment. These basic features must remain intact. Our Constitution isn't designed to accommodate life presidency or a monarchy any more than a foundation that was designed to support 5 floors can hold up to 20 floors. Another viewer here says he's just curious. He thinks Alex looks like Kiza Besigye. Do you?
Terrible.
And that you talk like him. Are you twin brothers? This is Joseph Nwabine in Kabbalah Yantonde. Let's come back to serious discussions about this. There are many people, you represent us in Parliament. There are many people who think there is a lot more at stake than both sides for and against this amendment are discussing. Serious discussion on the Majezi motion begins next week. One of the major questions I have been asking and no one is willing to answer. Why would you have the Minister for Justice and Constitutional Affairs, the former Minister for Justice and Constitutional Affairs, the Honorable Adolf Mwesige, who's now Minister for Defense, and the Prime Minister himself standing in front? What are you telling Ugandans? That as cabinet, you have failed to come up with reforms which General Kahindo Tafire promised last year and said, 2015 actually, said, 2016, 2015 just before elections. He said there was no time to pass comprehensive electoral reform legislation and it was deferred to the next year. Now you're stampeding the country with a private member's bill, a private member's bill to amend the constitution. And the people who support the amendment, apart from saying, Mr. Nsubuga, you can correct me if I'm wrong, apart from saying the constitution allows us and that there is discrimination, I have not had any persuasive other reasons that you're advancing for this amendment.
Like which one?
No, you have given 2 reasons. Is that all?
First of all, let me thank Honorable Margaret for having sent that message. As I already stated that the caucus has come up with a position on this motion. And now it is no longer Majezi's motion, but all of us as members of NRM Party caucus in Parliament, we are supposed to support this
But you agree
motion.
that it's not yet an NRM party position? It's a caucus position,
NRM
but not an
parliamentary
NRM
caucus.
Yes.
Yeah. So, back at your question. 1, maybe the question, sorry to also to ask you another question. The private member of Parliament, he has a right to come up with.
He does.
He
But
does.
what you're admitting,
So,
what you're admitting,
that
Mr.
is
Nsubuga,
one.
What you're admitting, Mr. Nsubuga,
Yes.
is that you have an incompetent government as
No.
an NRM party
As
that
far
has not
as-
been able.
as far as
just a moment.
government
Just a moment.
business is
You
concerned.
asked me a question.
Mm.
You are admitting that the government you put in power is incompetent or has refused or has failed to do what it is supposed to do. That's why you're relying on a private member's bill. And I would be asking the question, anybody watching you now who knows the inadequacies in our electoral laws would say, how many private member bills are you going to have actually have acceptable as by the Supreme Court ruling in Amama Mbabazi versus Yoweri Museveni and the Electoral Commission petition of 2016 to have those electoral law reform amendments done in the Constitution? How many private members
I'm
bill?
getting your question.
Yes.
But one thing you have to understand that we as members of parliament, we don't have control over government business.
You run the party.
Yes, we do.
Your party
We
runs the
do.
government.
But there is a government.
Yes, but it
Yes,
is your government
Can
as
I
a
answer
party.
your question,
Yes.
sir? There's a government, and in the parliament they have a prime minister who is the head of government business.
Alex, you
Let me finish. Let me first finish.
Help your colleague.
When
because
is he coming up? When is he
you're
coming
members
up
of the
with
party.
business? They come up with a lot of business every now and then. But that one, are we together? If they have not come up with omnibus bill at this stage, within their program, they will bring it at an appropriate time. But that one, just a minute, that one should not stop a private member
Honda and
who is
Honorable
coming
Soboga.
up with his motion on the
Honorable
floor of
Honda and
parliament.
Honorable Soboga, I want
Because it
to
is
put it to you.
provided for.
Do you not think, as a party in power, that you owe it to Ugandans to get a government that actually functions and does what it's supposed to do?
The government
Well,
is functioning.
I think to begin with, we must actually hold accountable government, especially the Minister for Constitutional, Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, for failing. Because all these crises, for instance, why do you stampede us? You see, some of us, we have been put in a very tricky situation where we are not in agreement with a private member's bill that, in my understanding, is coming at a very wrong moment where the country has to reflect a lot about succession. And for me, it is really, I respect President Yoweri Museveni. I love him.
But Alex,
No, first
succession,
fight. No.
Monarchy is
This,
my brother.
please stop that pretense.
it's not
Please
monarchy.
stop that pretense. Because what I know very clearly is I have been asking some of these members moving this crazy motion. I've been asking them, why? Why are you doing this? The president himself is not interested. This has been the question. Why are you disturbing the big man? Why can't we allow our president, really, with the decorum, with all that he has really had for this country, why can't we allow him to retire with the nobility? That has been one of my big things.
And what are they
And,
telling you?
and you know, because many of these guys, they have learned through history that, you know, whenever you go out of your way and do certain things, you get rewards. And some of them are driven by selfish interests at the expense of the country. And this is what is very disturbing, because I said I have never been in any meeting where the president has made it clear to us that he's interested in seeing us amend this article. Never. And now, how would you expect me as Ruhunda to come and then you coerce me to take a position where I am sure my president, whom I respect, is not interested? Now, why should we create? First, I just want to conclude, because I'm reading this very important book. I would also recommend to you The Second Curve by Charles Handy. It's an amazing book because it talks about whether it's institutions, whether it is governments, whether it is businesses, but there is a time where, when you reach, you must make a critical decision before even you reach your highest peak and going to another lower curve. You must make a critical decision for continuity. Now, we are here because the NRM, unfortunately, because it is a mass party which keeps recruiting, you know, so many people. They just come in and with limited skills, with the limited capacity of thinking ahead. Now, many of the old guys who had the vision, who are thinking ahead alongside the president, have been, you know, put out. They have been knocked out. And now, at the end of the day, you have these fellas who are just, you know, looking at the president, and they just think this is the only way. They cannot think beyond the president, and you cannot blame them for
Charles,
that.
no,
But that's why they are stampeding us with this kind of crisis. And I want you to know that this is a very costly bill, for the
private
country.
members' bill.
Economical.
Costly
You know,
way?
we are talking about the costs that the Uganda has to meet to sustain what you are proposing.
Okay.
And I think these are not small things.
I think that's
because
critical. You worked in
bill.
police before. I have not seen any other bill attract as much deployment around Parliament and around the country as you have deployed over this bill. And that's a cost that Ugandans are missing.
No, I'm not the
But
one deploying. That's one. I'm a member of parliament.
You're a member.
I'm not the
No,
one
I mean, you
deploying.
have seen.
Yes.
You have gone through this. Peter, listening to this discussion, are we clear about what exactly we're discussing? Is it just about President Museveni?
Of course, we are very
The
clear.
country is gripped.
First of all, let me chip in what you're asking the MPs why the matter did not go through the organs of the NRM and what have you. Of course, we all know that NRM generally functions only during elections. But even if that was not really the most important thing, President Museveni knows what he's doing and he has a history. He knows exactly how this game has to work out. You would have expected, he must have noticed, and I think some people in the NRM organs, Fitsek and what, made some noises. And he must have checked the temperature and say that going through those formal organs, while they would not stop, they would cause unnecessary embarrassment to him. And one would even have thought he might have gone the Rwanda way of a referendum, but again, he seems not to have liked what would potentially happen. So this was the quickest weapon to use, you know, and you know, he's a guerrilla. He knows that even if you have a standing army, sometimes you need to use snipers, you need to use ambush. So long as you achieve the target, you don't need to deploy the whole army.
Yes.
So our friend here among the snipers,
No.
and they have already scored the victory.
But can I provide information to you?
Is the president
Yes.
interested? Again, he doesn't have to say it. I mean, all the optics, everything is clear. That and indeed his supporters are saying even if he's not interested, they are going to force him. And historically has always been forced in court. Yeah.
So Nsubuga is forcing him in court.
Yeah, he's forcing him.
Someone has sent a message here and says, what a coincidence. You and your predecessor, Nyombe Tembo, was one of the major architects of removing term limits in 2005. And now you're here on the age limits. He says, is that a mere coincidence?
No, it's not a coincidence.
Mr.
But
Chair,
something which I wanted to correct you.
just a minute.
Just a minute. Currently, NRM is a functioning party. Even before.
There's no evidence that it's a functioning party.
No, there is.
There's no
Just
evidence.
look at, just a minute.
Very,
I'm
very,
giving
very,
information,
very
please.
sad.
Just a minute.
Yes.
Very
Look
sad.
at these by-elections. We have almost won all of them. You can't say that you already...
No, but I'm saying you have won because it functions during
Yeah.
elections. That's why
No.
you have won.
That doesn't speak to the functionality of the party.
Generation. But even by-elections, the party is functioning.
Mr. Chair, you're saying it's very unfortunate.
party is
What is it that
functioning.
you're saying is very
You see,
unfortunate?
It's very unfortunate because history, the main objective of any leadership is to advance the society. You understand?
Yes.
Anything else is just background music. Now, as an economist, I can assure you that this country has gone back. It has declined in every aspect. So when you say that it is, and secondly, when you have a backward society, as Museveni once wrote in his own book, it propels backward elements in positions of power. And we go back to economic decline. So what is at stake? You have been asking us. The real thing at stake is that we are going to have continued decline in the economy.
You wrote an
will be
article,
no-
you published an article in the Sunday Monitor last Sunday,
Even this Sunday.
and even this Sunday, and you are doing comparison of East African economies, particularly the Kenyan economy. Yes. What exactly was the point you're making?
The point I'm making is that in 2000, President Museveni himself wrote a very big article. At that time, there was a debate about living wage, minimum wage. And he said, Kenya, which has a minimum wage, the income per capita, GDP income per capita was only 340, and the Uganda was 330. They were ahead of us by just 10. 14, 15 years later, Kenya's GDP is, according to World Bank, is 1,376.
Yes.
And ours is still at 600 something. They have gone far. So the point I'm making is that
What
we
explains
are not
that?
competitive enough. The economic policies are so hindering that this country is going backward, very backward in every aspect.
There is a question I'd like to put to you, Mr. Chair, before you, before I come back to the other members. One of the major questions that has been asked is when you have a discussion like this, the world has been watching developments, political developments in this country, in Kenya. I mean, the world watches political developments in every country and how they impact on the economics and investment environment.
Yes.
Do you see this discussion? What kind of impact can this discussion have on the country?
Well, that's very interesting. I have to tell you, in economics of investment, there are 4 principles that educated investors look at. First one is the viability of the business. So if the investor sees that he will make profit, he goes there. The second principle is the finance mix. Whether he can get money from that country and he finances the project, the interest rate, is it low? Because the idea of an investor is that he has an idea, but the money must come from the bank, not from his own pocket. Because you can't have enough money to buy planes and to set up an airline or invest in a dam. So you must get money from banks. So if the interest rate is prohibitive, investors go away. The third one is dividends. That's the country, what they call the dividend element and the dividend principle. Is the country able to generate enough foreign exchange so that you can send your dividends to South Africa, to Argentina? If the export is less than the imports, the investors share with. The fourth one, and this is the main one, they look at the irreversible investment. If you are going to build a refinery, if you are going to build a railway line, if you are going to build a pipeline, it's not like you are setting up a saloon where if there's a problem, you just get your gadgets at the park and go to another country. These investments are called irreversible investments. Now they look at the politics. When they see no light at the end of the politics channel, they go away. So this kind of discussions, this kind of insecurity in the political life, it sends away serious investors. You can only get investors who can invest in hair salon, cutting hair, because they will get the gadgets and they go to Kenya next time. But you cannot get a serious investor who is going to put here an industry that you call irreversible investment.
Honor, do you think that's a discussion we should be having as a country as we debate
Yeah, we
whether
should
President
be discussing
stays
it, but of
or
course
leaves?
the reality also that I think much of the Western world where the investors are coming from, and lately China, have come to trust President Museveni's ability to control. Look, they have a cynical view about Africa. They think Africa is really for people like him. And they have watched him time and again manage to control Uganda. They have seen other places near Uganda implode and explode. So they watch, and I'm sure, much as we're outraged about the crackdown in Parliament, the calculation in Western capitals is again the man is able to do it. You know, he's always able to control the situation.
If you check numbers,
and at the same time, he's able to do the interests of the West in Somalia and other places. So he has his game still.
Mr. Nsoboga, as you embrace the Majezi motion,
Yes, sir.
are these some of the issues you're discussing? Are you looking at the numbers at the Uganda Investment Authority, for example? Out of how many investors attracted to the economy actually end up setting up? How many investment dollars are coming into the economy as you discuss this? Because they should be tied to the politics. The investment and the future of the country should be tied to the politics. Do you see, you have investments like the telecom companies, they provide a service, they take out all their money. Long-term sustainability, are these discussions that you're having within the party? Or within the caucus for this matter?
Yeah, we discuss such issues. But one important thing you have to note that we have achieved a lot as far as economic development of this country is concerned.
Give us the figures of achievement.
And I don't have expected,
the
just
figures.
I don't have expected Teddy, somebody who has been around for some time. I'm sure you were around during Amiri's regime, you were around during Computer's regime. And you can be in a position to see that this economy has moved faster compared to
But
the
you tell me
previous
how,
governments.
give us the figures.
For
What do you
example,
mean?
I may not be able to give you the figures because I don't
So
have
if
them
you don't
here.
have figures,
But one
then
thing I want you to appreciate,
what are you telling
that
people if
during
you don't have
Obote's
figures?
regime, you are not in a position to move from here to Fort Portal on tarmac. You are not here to move from here to Chisoro on tarmac, from here to Guru on tarmac, from here to Soti on tarmac. You appreciate what we have achieved. Are we together? And I can assure you, more investment, more investors, more investors will come here. And up to now, they are continuing.
Does that
coming.
represent our capacity? Because it's okay to argue and say between Obote or Mutesa, Obote 1 to the end of Amin, and Obote 2 is a total 25 years, about 25 years. Yoweri Museveni alone, he's done 32 years so far.
Yes.
Uganda will be 55 years independent next Monday.
Yes.
The Monday after tomorrow will be 55 years. And someone is going to ask, how much are you collecting? What was the size of the population? Have you moved at the speed at which you should have moved? But I think the more relevant numbers that Che is talking about, how many investor dollars are you attracting into the economy from 10 years ago today? What does the curve look like? Are those important
Those
questions?
figures are there. Just a minute. Those figures are there. But when Teddy compares the Kenyan economy, the Ugandan economy, these are totally different. You can't
But
compare
the president
Why?
himself
Compare
said
the
these
two.
people were ahead of us by only $10.
But you look at the advantages for the
Well,
Kenyan, the Kenyan
I-
economy
I-
has benefited over us.
But
over
I
think,
Uganda.
Is economics an important discussion for us to have?
Yes,
Honorable Wonder, in this?
I think this is extremely important because, you know, in this era, we have, first of all, we have to concentrate on the economy. Actually, even if you listen to my submission in Parliament, I was concerned about how much effort and energy we are investing in politics. And yet, the cardinal duty, which is well laid in the manifesto of NRM, is to see how we move the country to the middle income by 2020.
And it will not
Now,
happen.
now,
It will
now,
not
now,
happen.
now we
Why?
have. Now,
You
now,
see,
no,
when
no.
you-
Just give me, because I'm seeing the. If you look at the mood now in the country, if you look at the direction of the country, we have really diverted people, and that's why, for me, my major concern about this private members bill, because I was asking myself, why should we, at this point in time, when we are supposed to concentrate on ensuring that we get the petroleum running, because you remember the investment of the country into the oil sector, huge resources have already moved in that sector. We expect to see results. Now, our energies, instead of putting all our energies on ensuring the economy is moving,
Okay.
we are now moving into politics, and this is very dangerous for the country.
Okay.
And I think you were talking about investors, because I'm the chair of the trade, and I know what is happening. Now, if we are talking about attracting investment, of course, the investors, they would love to come in a country where there are no conflicts. Now,
have
the mood.
conflicts
No, of course. I mean, if you saw what happened in our parliament, what I'm trying to explain is why should we, in the middle, because we have just come out of an election. Remember, every time we have elections, we lose business. Many investors, they repatriate the money because
they
they are
hold
not
investment.
sure of what is going to happen. Even after the elections, that whole year, they are still studying. Now, when we are trying to settle down, we are getting back now into, creating a bad image, which would really scare investors.
Now, Alex,
and
can I ask a
I
question?
think this is where,
Gentlemen, I'm afraid we need to take a break.
this is where I feel.
Only to Honorable
question I
Nsovogam.
wanted to ask
Let me just read something. You are looking for numbers.
Yes.
This is the Uganda Economic Update. It's a document of the World Bank.
Yes.
The 9th edition, released in May 2017. It's titled Infrastructure Finance Deficit, Can Public-Private Partnership Fill the Gap? This is a World Bank document. This is what it says. Diare Tugaye, Country Director, Eritrea, Kenya, Rwanda, and Uganda, Africa region. He says, at present, Uganda's rate of economic growth is at its lowest level for the past 2 decades, largely due to the impact of factors related to the upheavals in Uganda's banking system, the ongoing impact of the drought on agriculture, the civil strife in South Sudan, and the increasingly volatile external environment.
I've not heard
This-
about internal politics. It's not mentioned in
Huh?
here. Internal politics
No,
is not mentioned.
I think the important thing is,
But we are
At
adding
present-
that
in
on,
South
no,
Sudan.
no.
It is
At
declining.
present, Uganda's rate of economic growth is at its lowest level for the past 2 decades.
Because-
You talked about we have been growing.
They are not. There is no
The
growth.
facts here speak a different language.
Yeah.
Can we take a quick commercial break? We'll be right back. Welcome back this last segment of the Fourth Estate. There are lots of messages coming through, a lot of them being sent to on my phone, but we'll also pick some calls. Let's first go back a little bit to the politics of this whole discussion, starting with you, Alex Ruhunda. You represent a constituency in one of the strongest holds of the national resistance movement. It's never voted, Fort Portal and Toro region has never voted for President Museveni less than 70%. In the last 5 elections, he's contested. Yes. And what I understand is that you seem to be divided right in the middle. You and the woman member of parliament, the Honorable Sylvia Rwabogo, seem to have different views about this proposed amendment, the Majezi bill. The Minister for Defense, who represents Bunyangabo County, and Jackson Kafuzi, who represents Kiaka South, yes, are on the other side. I saw the Honorable Adolf Mwesiga stand up to second the motion when they called for seconders, and then Kafuzi actually stood as one of the official, or on the record seconders of the motion. Yeah. Does this say that your voters, that the population is actually equally divided, or who is speaking for the population, who is speaking against the population?
Well, as you know, I'm a researcher by profession, and I'm a people's representative. I do not come here to Parliament just to think for the people per se, but I do wide-range consultations. Before making this strong stand, I had quite a lot of engagements with religious leaders, political leaders in Fort Portal, the business community, some of the business community, and the stand was very clear. They told me that when I get to Parliament, I should not make a mistake and support this private members bill.
But these are the people who support President Museveni.
Well, they do, and they love, like I'm saying, we love President Museveni. You see, I have told people that actually the God of President Museveni is the best I have ever seen, because what God has done for President Museveni is to show him what really can happen when you do not work out on succession. Like we have seen in Libya, we have seen in Egypt, we have seen all that. Now, unfortunately, you know, when you have strong leaders who are highly revered, they hardly get a chance for getting members who can tell them the truth of the matter. And I think I'm doing this because I love the president. I would love to see NRM continue beyond President Museveni. I would love my country not to go back to turmoil. And I think we need Ugandans who have love for the country. And I have listened to President Museveni. I want to tell you, you know, I've been keenly following the president, and in his days, he would even say, actually, he even told us one story that at one point, when they were meeting in the cabinet, and he disagreed with Obote on what they were doing. Actually, he went to light a cigarette, and Obote said, "But Museveni, you don't smoke. What is the problem?" He was saying he was protesting. Now, President Museveni, by that time, he could stand up and really say no to things which he could see cannot move the country. Now, at this point in time,
Alex, who will tell you that you do not understand President Museveni, or Ona Peter worked with him.
Yeah, but you see, no. But you see what President Museveni has lacked. It is for people really to be honest with him. Unfortunately, you know, many people, they just opportunistically, you know, use his presidency for their personal gains. And they survive alongside that.
The question someone would put to you, the question someone would put to you, in 2003, during when the processes of amending Article 1052 on term limits started, everybody who stood up to tell President Museveni in Chankwanzi that he was on the wrong track was exited from cabinet, and those who sang the most for that amendment were recruited into cabinet. Do you think this excludes President Museveni from being the principal architect of what the Nsubugas are executing?
But why did the president appoint and trust Honorable Lumumba, now who is the Secretary General of the party? Didn't she go against lifting the term limits? But the president knows. Actually, the president is one of the brilliant men we have had in the country. He knows. He knows all the weaknesses of Ugandans. But of course, when he wants to achieve a certain goal, he knows whom to use. But for me, I think that there is a time when you reach, and you need to get people to look at the future, because 35 years is a very long process. Now, there are so many things which have happened, and the dynamics that are required is for the party to begin discussing. And I want to conclude with this point.
I think the honourable member, having been a lone voice in just in the post eviction drama, I can understand his position. He's almost pleading with the president, and he pretends not to understand. Look, President Museveni knows that in this country, this is a feudal society, essentially, which still believes in a king. And the king gives, and the king is feared. So he knows that before this whole thing came, first of all, he has assessed that Ugandans were not going to rise with those Red Brigade, and they didn't. The Red Brigade was isolated, the people did not rise. And in and around Kampala, he actually worked on them. Remember his tour as Ribet Kamya, when he was giving checks to some of those informal groups? Those are the people who would rise.
No,
they did not rise because he worked on them. So he has accommodated, the people are living with him positively, so to say.
Are they? I wanted to just come back to you, and I asked you a question. I asked if these are your own opinions, these are your own opinions, or they represent the people you represent.
Certainly not. They are not my own opinions.
And I asked you, what explains the divide? You two lone voices in the Toro region so far?
Yeah, but this depends. No, it depends on how you respect people. Because for me, unfortunately, the only people I know are those who elected me. So I have got to represent them. If I was not airing out their views, then they would not really have me. I would not even be welcomed in Fort Portal. Actually, they wanted even to welcome me, with processions, but I didn't really buy that in. But what I'm trying to show,
by the number of messages I'm getting, many of them are from your constituency.
Yes, and I think this, you see, like if you are brave enough, because if you are an elected leader, you've got to be brave enough to air out the views of the people who elected you. Now, if you come around and turn against the people's will, that is very unfortunate. So I cannot go to speak on behalf of the other members, but what I know from the constituency that I represent, Fort Portal municipality, they are very strong on this matter.
Just on what I want to say, the world over, if people in your constituency are opposed to this thing, the right thing for them to do, and I think that's where the opponents of the removal of age limit have failed, is for the people to rise up. President Museveni, like all leaders, only fear the people. They don't fear other leaders because they can be contained. So when will your constituents rise if indeed they are opposed to this?
Because majority of people are supporting this. They are supporting
these are your messages. These are messages for you.
Before you come with the message, one thing which just has not answered that in the whole of Toro sub-region, there are only 2 members who are against this. And my sister, Luabogo, you have just recruited her recently.
Not recruiting.
I said it was last week. That's when she shifted.
Have respect.
It has been part of us.
Yeah, but have respect.
It has been part of us. She even attended the first meeting.
Yes, but
and said no to the motion.
Listen to
but
the
one
people.
question which you have not answered. Charles has asked you a question.
Yes.
That why comes you are only 2 in the whole of Toro sub-region? You have not answered.
But,
because out of the majority, you are only 2 members who are opposed to this.
Is this based on people's expectations, or it is just a...
Let me just read this. You asked a question, because I have some questions for you as well.
Yes.
When do you, as a member of parliament, provide leadership to your people?
No, on daily basis, we go and consult our people.
So
Depending
on a matter like this,
yes,
you think through it. Let me read a message to help me make this point. Someone says, I should inform you that, I asked you to comment on the fact that Uganda Bureau of Statistics, a government research body, says according to the latest National Household Survey that poverty in the country has increased from 19% to now 27% in the last 4 years. He also wants me to ask you, the Constitution says as an MP, you are supposed to make laws for the peace, order, and good governance of Uganda. Article 79 particularly says, given the fracas that was created and the tension across the country, now because of the Magezi motion, do you still think you and your colleagues are doing your work according to the demanded function?
yes, it is true. For your information, the tension you are talking about, I can say just manufactured. Just a few individuals are the one who have created that tension. You have seen, say in Kabale, in Arua, in the other day in Teso, people were demonstrating in support of this amendment. One thing which has to come out very clearly, that probably next week, this matter will come on the floor of Parliament for the first reading. As the Speaker communicated last week, I think that was on Wednesday, when it was adjourning in the House, that this issue is for the people of this country. At an appropriate time, you are going back in your respective constituencies to consult the people. So we are going to consult the people and bring back their views on the floor of the House for debate. But one thing you have to accept that this motion has got the popular support for the people of this country.
Are you
and then can be you can see the testimony that within Parliament, majority members of Parliament, including some from opposition, by the way, some from the opposition are supporting this motion.
Deborah here, a lady called Deborah is watching us, and she says, please let us have conscience and some sense of honesty and integrity. Can the likes of Unsuvuga stop shaming themselves by insulting Ugandans with this blatant lie of we have been having free and fair elections? Actually, if we did, we wouldn't be having issues with 102B amendment. Charles, please tell Unsuvuga to stop intimidating Honorable Honda. Has all the rights to share his views and among the very few intelligent MPs. Lastly, why these Nsuvugas are all over the political space have taken Muze hostage for their own selfish interests, all in the name of being made ministers and looking for wealth. I add my voice to those sober Ugandans to condemn for security operatives besieging Parliament. Thank you. This is a lady called Deborah. There are people who believe that you Nsuvuga, like this lady says here, that actually beyond saying the Constitution allows us, beyond saying there's some kind of discrimination, because I have seen an avalanche of private member bills that want to change this, to say there's a lot of discrimination inbuilt in the Constitution. You have no real reason, and you're holding President Museveni hostage to promise him to stay on so that he can make you ministers.
No, people were floating the idea of ministers that, for us we are going to be made ministers. That is diversionary. Because the first meeting we held on this subject matter, over 300 members of Parliament signed in support of Majezi's motion. So my question is, just a minute.
That means the first meeting was not that meeting. The first meeting was not that meeting. There had been earlier meetings,
no, the
which
first
had been
meeting,
attended
the
by other
first
people,
meeting
that
where
was introduced to these members.
When this matter was introduced, 300 members and over 300 endorsed it. We have about to.
No, I think
can I finish? Can I finish?
That.
Can I finish?
Because that was attendance list. You see, if you go and come up with a decision, then you can say those members who subscribe to it sign. But you see, when you come for the meeting as a member, when you turn up for the meeting, you are not going to determine the outcome. So it is that attendance list that is basing on.
No, okay, let us leave that one. When you went to the caucus, almost all members of the caucus supported this issue, supported Majezi's motion. So if somebody said that those who are in support, they are going to be made ministers. Now my question is, you mean all the 300 will be made ministers?
Why do you support this motion?
First of all, the private member who is coming up with the motion, What he's doing is within the law. It is provided for.
No. The processes are a different matter. My
What do
question
you
is,
want to
why
achieve?
do you support the motion? What do you want to achieve with this motion?
That's the issue. What do you want to achieve?
That is one. The
So
second
the
one,
economy is going
if you look
to-
at this motion in details, one aspect is addressing the issue of elections altogether. That, for example, when it comes to after the presidential elections, the issue of petitioning to court, the issue of organizing a by-election, assuming that the presidential elections have been cancelled, like in the case of Kenya, it is extending days. That is a very serious issue.
Let me ask the question again.
Please,
Why
can I first
why
finish?
do you support? What reasons are you advancing for amendment of Article 102B? That's my question.
The motion, they are more than that. Leave
issue
alone
is
that
to get the
article. There are more
president back in
articles.
power.
No, why are you attaching it to President Museveni as a person? Because, for example, one thing which you have not explained, for example.
No.
Uh,
So
let
is
me-
it bad for President Museveni to continue?
Yes, why are you running away from that fact?
That
That
he comes straight
It is
away
not
and say,
bad. It's not bad. It's not
That's
bad.
good.
Okay.
But one thing, let me
you
first
know,
finish.
I'm
Just a
afraid
minute,
we
just a
need
minute,
to-
Chelsea.
let me-
There is no truth
Yes.
that in
Let me
the
just
2021 elections, President Museveni is going to win.
Okay.
What if he's defeated? Because it has happened before.
No, in life, there's
It has happened before.
the ones they call trends. Trends show that
No,
he
it's
will win.
automatically.
Let me-
How comes others have lost?
Okay.
Kaunda lost an elections.
In
Okay.
East Africa,
Yeah.
no incumbent
Abdallah
has
Iwebe
ever
lost.
lost.
So don't attach this motion to President Museveni as a person. The point is, Majezi Rafaeli is a member of parliament. He has the right to introduce a private member's
Yes,
bill.
nobody
That's
disputes
all.
that. Nobody
Altogether.
disputes that.
And now in his capacity,
Don't you think, Honorable Nsubuga, that where Ugandans need to be taken is to be taken into the merits of this
So
amendment?
would you be
not that
okay?
the
Would
process
you be
allows it?
okay if someone moved an amendment? I don't know, or a part of the law to say the sitting president would not benefit from this amendment?
as long as has been supported
Okay.
by members of parliament. As long as, for example, one of ours is called Honorable Patrick Nsamba.
Charles.
Just a minute.
Okay.
Can
Came
you
up with a
also
motion. Honorable Samba came up with a motion. We discussed it in the caucus and got only 4 votes.
Okay.
Altogether. As long as a
we
member has
need-
come
we-
up with what
we-
he has
we
said
need to pick
and he
some
has
pause
got
and
the
we have
caucus
about
support,
10 minutes to
I don't
end
have
the
an
show.
objection.
Che, you wanted to come in?
Yes, I wanted really to make this point very clear. The measure the Honorable Nsubuga was talking about Obote, Amin, and so on and so forth, what they did and what we have achieved. You see, the Bible tells you,
Yes, sir.
if you measure yourself among yourself, measuring yourself with yourself, is not being wise. Measure yourself with Singapore, with South Korea, with Kenya. But if you measure yourself with the dwarfs, and M7 is on the record on this point, so that one is not a wise argument. Then I move to the real issue.
Yes.
The real
You
issue.
had some numbers there.
Yes,
which I
the
wanted
real
to-
issue
yes.
is that this country is in a shock. It will never be a lower middle income, not even in 2040. Here I have one article by...
That's a doomsday.
Yeah, but you look at the
scenario.
figure. It's good to look at the figures. This is an article where the president said the economy has expanded more than 81 times since 1986, and it was in January 14th. A long article. So when I read it, I looked at it and I found that he says that the GDP in 1986 was only 260 million. Even the second article, the same thing says Uganda has grown 14 times. Again, the GDP at that time, he says it was 260 billion. Now, in economics, let's come straight to the point. If you have a GDP of 260 million in 1986, and it is growing by 6%, and the population is also growing by 3%, the population was about 14. So I asked somebody to run an Excel program here to input this. And what do we have now? Our GDP is only real GDP. If you use those figures, and these figures are provided by the president, the original GDP 1986, the 6% growth, even though sometimes we don't have this growth, but taking everything and the population growth of 3.2 anyway, in the end we find that this year the real GDP is just $295.
Okay.
And then by 2040 it will be just 557 income per capita. Very low. So the issue
Where are you getting those numbers from?
The numbers are variable. You take this, you go to Excel, you put it in, and then the thing will run out. I want to challenge. I want to challenge these Nsubugas to go and really do figures, because I would love. This is my final. I would love to have the Ministry of Finance, the Bank of Uganda, even the National Planning Authority, even the president, we go into a room and each one runs these figures to tell us how they arrive on their figures.
Okay.
Because
let me take a few callers.
Concluding this,
yes.
Going by these figures, Uganda will not be a lower middle income by 2027.
Okay.
Teddy, they don't need figures, they have them again.
They have them again.
Okay. But this is the truth.
Someone actually in Subuga sent a message and said, there are people who are against this bill, but they are being beaten by the police and the military. That's why you can't see their support. You are talking about people demonstrating.
Like who has been beaten?
You haven't been seeing what's been happening, Mr. Subuga?
No, be specific. Be specific.
I saw arrests of members of parliament the other day. I have seen demonstrations being cracked down in Makerere.
So you don't know the circumstances under which they were arrested?
Yeah?
You don't know the circumstances?
Yes, I know. The circumstances are a member of parliament who is a minister came into the chamber with a gun. They protested the gun and then they were suspended. And after being suspended, special forces came in and evicted them. And they were beaten. The picture behind you, by the way.
Follow the procedure properly.
Yes.
I'm sure you have been following what has been happening in the House.
Yes.
We have our rules of procedure, where one of the rules demands that when the speaker is in chair and is communicating to members, you have to keep quiet.
I have read the rules of procedure.
Yeah, and you are aware of that.
And I would like to invite you also to read, I think, Rule 67, Sub Rule 6. What does it say? Rule 67, Sub Rule 6. As you look it up, let's pick a call. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir. Your name and where are you calling from?
Yeah, I'm calling from that issue.
Yes, please. Joel. Go ahead.
First of all, I want to thank the Honorable Rugunda and the friends who are opposing this motion. Some of the MPs they are doing this, they are supporting it for several interests. Because now, if you go back to the local people, most of them they are opposing it. Now look at those people. They presented that motion. They went for the demonstration. And if someone can tell me that people they are supporting it, then I don't agree with him. They are trying to drive us back to those regimes of Amini and their opponents. At the end of it all, we shall end up like Libya and Somalia, where these people are fighting.
Okay.
We local people, we are begging those honorable help and oppose this motion. Thank
you very much. Yes?
Where are we heading?
Okay, thank you very much for your opinion.
If it happens and they do this, when anything happens, especially these big people, they will free up, they will leave the country and go. And we local people see it as possible.
Okay.
So we beg the MP, the honorable, oppose this motion.
No, I think I was looking at behavior of members of parliament. I think 74. 74.
Not 67.
No, not 67. I think I quoted the wrong one. G, a member of parliament shall not bring into the house any camera, arms or weapon, tape recorder, transistor radio, and I think something like that. I think it's a different rule I was looking at.
But one point I wanted to bring it out to, that we should be very grateful for the Right Honourable Speaker of Parliament. The way she conducted business on Tuesday and Wednesday. She guided the House properly. Because what she did,
appearing on Trevor Noah's show.
Because what she did was within the confines of our rules of procedure.
Yes.
She ordered members to get out. And some members, by the way, out of the 25, some left peacefully without any problem. But there are those who adamantly remained. And as the rules of procedure here, she ordered the sergeant at arms to take them away. And suspended the House for 30 minutes.
Did the sergeant at arms remove them?
Yes, he did.
I thought they were removed by special forces.
The sergeant at arms
did it
they were with the support of the police and other security organs of the state. You know, when the police is doing its work, you know, I was in the police for some years. The police under Article 212 is mandated to to cooperate with the statutory organs of the state.
And that keeps the independence of parliament. You think?
Mind you,
The three arms of government
Yes.
were kept independent, you think?
Yes, because first of all, the members refused to vacate the house.
Yes.
As per the orders
I
of the
think
Speaker.
Charles, why Honor was answering, to me the most worrying bit is the message that the young people in this country are getting, and I expect this to be repeated in even in institutions, at local councils, is that might is right. I mean, we are really creating a political culture where these so-called parliaments and what will be... Of course, we already know that parliament is a PR exercise by government, but it has not been confirmed that you don't need...
Gentlemen, I'm afraid,
I got
Honorable
embarrassed by my 5-year-old when I reached home in Fort Portal, and he asked me that, Daddy, why are you fighting in parliament? I think this was a very embarrassing situation.
Of course, for both sides.
How
For
would
both
I
sides, not
answer?
just only
How
the...
would I answer such a
NRMs,
younger child, innocent younger
That
child?
a member of parliament
you know,
can
looking
fight.
at the father fighting. I mean, this was something very nasty.
Throwing away chairs.
It was terrible.
That's why I think the
think
Speaker,
it
if it
gave
was
a
not-
very bad image
If it was not for political
Parliament, really.
expediency, the Speaker would have ideally wanted to adjourn even for a week if it could solve the problem. But she had to do what they say she had to do.
Suspended for
But the
30 minutes.
consequences are really a terrible culture we are
Yeah,
creating.
I think as you have seen this covered by all the media, I think it was an embarrassing episode for government, for Uganda, not for parliament, but for Uganda. And people asking the question, did it have to reach that level? Does amendment of the constitution, even when the constitution provides for that, drive the country in that direction? Maybe that's the pondering you as members of parliament need to be asking. I saw you praising the speaker the other day, which is okay, but the question is, did we have to get to this?
But why don't you
Could
look,
this have
why
been
don't you look at the
prevented?
behaviors
Can I
of
pick-
some members?
can I pick a
the way
point?
they
I
conducted
agree with
themselves.
you.
You first look at
I
that.
agree with you, the members who
The
are...
way they conducted
Both
themselves.
sides of the
Yeah,
parliament were
All
wrong.
a member of parliament.
No, but they were
throwing
taken
away
bit-
chairs.
Can I pick a call? Hello? Hello?
They are taken beyond the breaking point. They can do that.
Hello?
You see, when
Which
you,
one? Breaking point to where?
when you
Hello?
see when you see poverty, the level of poverty, this is the highest. in the
hello?
history of
Are you there?
Uganda. But I would like to invite you to look
yes,
for
please.
figures.
Yes, you're not clear. Your line is not clear. Can I ask production to help us because the lines don't seem to be... Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, sir. Your name and where you're calling from?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Your name and where you're calling from, sir?
Yes, my name is
Can you hear that, gentlemen? I think we seem to be having a problem with our line because we can hardly hear what you're trying to say. Let's just conclude this discussion in here because I think we have on about we have hardly 2 minutes. Hello? Yes, please.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Your name and where you're calling from?
I'm calling from Kampala.
Yes, Farouk. Keep your question or comment brief.
My question goes to Leo.
Yes, please.
Can Leo tell us how many old people above 75 years who approached Magezi to put that bill into the parliament?
Thank you very much, Farouk. Can you answer that?
You know, Magazi doesn't need to be approached. He's a member of parliament, representing the people of Igara West. And he has the right to come up with a private member's bill. Because the first thing, what he's doing is provided for within the law.
Yes.
That's the basis of our discussion. We are in parliament as lawmakers.
Okay, let me pick
we are
another
not
caller.
dancers in La Bonita, National Center. No, we are there as lawmakers.
Okay,
what Magezi is doing is within the law, the confines of the law.
Okay, let me pick another caller because our time is bad. Hello?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Your name and where you're calling from? Your line is bad. Could you turn down the volume on your TV set? Hello? 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 Hello?
It's not going.
Okay, we have very little time to get out of here. Let me amend Farouk's question because I've had people raise this question. How many 70-plus year olds in this country feel that that provision in the constitution impedes the aspirations to be president of Uganda that you know of in Kasanda constituency?
No, I may not be in a position to give you the figures, but they are there. But the first important thing which you have to know that if you have the right to vote,
Yes.
altogether,
Yes.
you also enjoy the same right to be voted too.
No, I think
Altogether.
the bigger question people are asking, why does this become the most important article that needs amendment by hook or by crook?
What says it is the most important?
Because that's what Mageza has picked on, that's what all of you are backing, that's what Cabinet has endorsed. Cabinet
But
called it
even others are more coming. At the moment, we have this one.
Okay.
Let us first finish it, and then we see what next.
Okay.
Yeah.
Our time is out. We need to get out of here. Let me take some messages. Who lied to Museveni that he's the only one that can lead the country? I don't think the president has said he has been lied to. No, the issue is that he fears to be charged. I can't understand. This is someone called Mugisa. The message is not very clear. We need his guidance. Be left. Okay, I can't make that message out. Someone says, Honorable Hunda's views are representative of Fort Portal municipality people. We shall re-elect him. They're campaigning for you.
Under Green Party.
That's Kadiri.
Green Party ticket.
We have to
That's
investigate you where
Someone
you
said-
the Green Party.
Someone says, age limit. I think this one, let me take this one. Someone says, age limit shouldn't preoccupy our airwaves. We have a lot of unfinished business with the Museveni administration. Is age limit part of the 10-point program? On which page is it on the NRM manifesto? How far has the manifesto been fulfilled? Proponents should value our intellect. Posterity will judge us harshly. Frederick T. Musimenta, he is founder and chief strategist at the Uganda Dialogue Arena, Kampala. There's so many messages here. I don't even know how to deal with all of them. Someone says the Nsubugas have sacrificed soberness at the altar of greed and sycophancy. The future will judge them harshly. Even the apartheid regime followed the right procedures to pass unpopular laws. Today, all the perpetrators are aliens in the South African leadership. Another listener, another viewer here says, okay, I'll not read this message. It's getting upset for some reason. I don't know why. I will not read that. Someone says, proud of you, Honorable Alex, for the stand you have made to use mail. Think about the future of your children. The promoters of the lifting of age limit have the same script and narrative and no real substance in what they are advancing. And someone says, Charles, please stop asking Simeo hard questions because he can't answer even the simple questions that you have put to him about the motion. Another listener says, good evening and other members. I am happy to see to see Mzee Sezi Cheye and the Honorable MP from Fort Portal, not forgetting Onapito. I strongly commend the MP for Fort Portal. For my brother Smeo, I have no words to describe his reasoning for now. Mzee Sezi Cheye is a great man, full of wisdom. Please get, he wants your contacts. This is someone called Bahati who's sending this message.
Another. Give it to you.
Yeah?
I'll give you the contact, you give it to him.
Julius Musime says, I feel ashamed to hear Honorable Simeon Nsubuga pretend to know Toro more than its leaders and natives. The truth is, touching Article 102B is going to create serious tsunami in the NRM politics in Toro. I come from Brasha County, and listening the other day to Honorable Margaret Muhanga lie to the nation that her constituents wanted to lynch Mbide for being against the bill, which happened nowhere ever. MP Muhanga, defense has to protect Simeo Nsubuga, very sure. The rest of our MPs will support the motion in their silence. There are many messages. I'm sorry I can't take all the messages. There are quite many. Tell Honorable Nsubuga to leave Ruhunda.
Ruhunda is my brother. I don't have any problem. We'll take the same route.
I'm sorry I'm not able to take all the messages that have been sent to us because we've got to bring this show to an end. Let me start with you, Teddy Says Che, your last word on the show.
Well, my warning is that the economy is going down the drain and will never be all right until Mr. Museveni can rethink his policies. I want also to, as I said, I would love to have a seminar or a day, brainstorm with the people in finance, the Bank of Uganda, even the president, even people like in Subuga here, to show me their figures, because I believe in figures. I have done an Excel program here which shows that our GDP now is so low that we cannot, even by 2040, we shall be just about $500 per GDP income per capita. So my worry is that this country is declining economically, and will soon be a Mogadishu. Because once people are not catered for in terms of economics, if you don't build a national cake, you really destroy the economy. That's my point. My worry is that we let us address the issue of economy.
Okay. Ona, your last word on this.
Yeah, my last word is that after removal of age limit, I think the people who are supporting it need to think hard then on the economic issue. How do we stop the country from spending all its resources and time on politics surrounding President Museveni? I believe after removing age limit, they should also try to remove elections for him, such that he stops, and those who claim to fight for him stop distorting the economy, and allow him also to articulate some of his intentions without worrying about losing power. Otherwise, he may spend another 35 years of trying to just say the president has to continue and nothing else happens.
Okay.
There is no contradiction between, even if you want to call his country to stay autocracy, between autocracy and economic growth in some countries.
Okay, this one is speaking to Suboga and says, actually, he's called up Gizibwe Isaiah. He says, the MP for Kitagwenda, I think Agava Bass, has also voiced a position which seems to be contrary to
so
what
now they are free from the region.
You're counting. Your last word, Honorable Simeon Suboga.
Yeah, my last word.
Especially with Onapito's suggestion.
Uganda is we have democracy, and even after 5 years, we go for generations. Uganda is a free society where we should have a free debate. Those who are in support of the age limit, they should be given free environment to debate, and those who are against. But at the end of it, this is a matter within our constitution.
The point is there an end?
This is an article which is supposed to be amended by Parliament, because there are some articles which Parliament cannot amend. There's those which are supposed to be amended through the referendum or through the district council resolutions. But at the end of it, we are going to debate this issue on the floor of the House, and then we are going to vote. So what the people of this country should be assured of, that the majority of votes will take the day.
Okay, thank you very much. Honorable Ruhunda,
Yeah,
the last word.
It's my prayer that we don't get bogged into this issue to swallow the most important issues to do with our economy, because all the energies we must really restore and revamp our abilities to drive the country economically, and I think let us be very conscious about that, but also let us as a party listen to the people, because the people, they are the ones who elect us, and they love NRM, they love President Museveni. I would love really to see my president, because I think it is high time that even within our party we begin thinking about succession. You know, for me, this is a question which I feel is much more important when we are talking about the future.
And you come up with it. Mageza has come up with the motion. You also raise it within party structures.
Yes, I have raised it, and I will continue pursuing it. But I appeal to my president really to look at the long term. I respect him. He's a very good man, but we don't want to lose him, and we don't want to regret because of this action.
Okay, we got to bring the show to an end. I have messages from Emmanuel Oluka. I see Ruben Kimome is sending messages. I have seen a message from Charles Opolot, who says, after this amendment, what happens next? There is a message I would like to read from the Margaret Mahanga. She sent quite a few messages. And as a member of parliament, I think I owe it to her to read some of her messages. So let me just look up some of these messages, and they are the only ones I will read. Yes, she says, amending the constitution does not make Museveni a president automatically. He will subject himself to an election in 2021 and let Ugandans decide then. If the population thinks he's old, tired, frail, etc., let them not vote for him. Blocking him by using the law is cowardice. Why are they scared of him? Museveni cannot appoint over 330 MPs to positions because he doesn't have them. We also know MPs who oppose Museveni, e.g. Banyanzachi, and they were elevated to cabinet. Adolf Mwesige, Kasule Lumumba, etc. were in PAFO. And so it's not true that supporters are looking for favors.
It is very true.
And yeah. I have so many messages.
Even
I
Alex
can't read all of them.
Tomorrow, minister.
Benjamin, I see Benjamin here sent some messages.
Appointed. You were a member of
I see
a senior member.
Who's this?
Well, that is
okay, our time is out. We need to get out of here. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Mzee Teddy says Chair, publisher of the Uganda Confidential. Thank you very much. Onapito Komoloit. Onapito is Legal and Corporate Affairs Director at Nile Breweries AB InBev. Simeon Subuga is a former policeman and now member of parliament for Kasanda South in Mubende district. He's one of the key leaders of this amendment. He's telling us a meeting happened, but that happened before the... He's a historical. And we do remember. Bashir from Fort Porter, I've seen your message. I'm unable to take it now. Anthony is watching us from the United States, so I need to take his message. It says, on the economy, you're talking about foreign investors, but let's not forget the Ugandans in the diaspora who contributed more than $1 billion last financial year. If they anticipate future instability, they have two options: to invest outside Uganda. Let anticipated instability can impact remittances too. That's Anthony, and he doesn't live in this country. Thank you very much to all our viewers for making time for the show tonight, and thank you very much to our production crew that stays up late to deliver the show to you, and of course to you, the viewer, who stays up late to give us this support. Apologies for the phone calls. I can hear the phone is still ringing off the hook, but we're unable to take them because the line wasn't as clear as we had expected. From me, have a good night.